I am begging you to stop thinking that Southeast Asia is backwards and that Western countries are the best.
After living in Southeast Asia for almost a year, slow traveling across 4 of the most popular cities, we are here to answer the ultimate question: which city is best in Southeast Asia? And in today's video, we're gonna go through 7 categories and a bonus 8th category for parents. So wait till the very end to see what they are. So let's dive in.
For those who don't know us, we are Nabil and Zanesta, and we are a location-independent family with the goal of creating a freedom-based business online.
First up, let's look at the category that's extremely vital for digital nomads as well as long-term expats: visa flexibility. Now, obviously, this would depend on the strength of your passport. For us, we are Australian citizens, but from what we have seen online, it is quite similar to other countries such as the US, UK, Canada, Australia, etc.
For Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, tourist visas are usually 90 days and free of cost. Longer stays would require visa rounds, which we really don't recommend that much, but there are other options, which is My Second Home MM2H program. We did a full-length video on this and we will link it up here for you.
In Bangkok, Thailand, the tourist visa is 30 days on arrival for us, but you can extend it for another 30 days. We have to pay 265 Australian dollars for the 3 of us to stay in Bangkok for a total of 2 months.
For Saigon in Vietnam, tourist visas are very straightforward with various options including single or multiple entries. We got a 3-month multiple entry visa for Australian dollar worth 242, and as you can see, it's way cheaper than Thailand.
One of the things we noticed about Saigon, Vietnam is that other than ASEAN countries, most countries you would have to basically apply and pay for a visa.
If we move to Jakarta, Indonesia, the tourist visa is 30 days free, but since we wanted to stay a bit longer, we found their visa process to be quite confusing and expensive. We got a 2-month single entry visa for Australian dollar 360. But mind you, if you go to Bali, you have to pay an extra tourist tax now.
So for us, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is a clear winner in this category. Not only were we able to stay longer, but we didn't have to pay a dime. So clear winner, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. When researching about where to stay and accommodation, we found it quite confusing because there's just so much information out there. Which cities to live within these countries, which locations within each cities. One of the things that we decided was that we will always try to live in an expat area because that's where you would basically find most of the services we are used to living in Western countries, as well as international preschools for our daughter. But obviously, it'll depend on your personal circumstances. So for example, if you are a family where you're homeschooling, you don't necessarily have to live in an expat location because you're not sending your kid to preschool or a school.
For Kuala Lumpur, for short-term stays, you can look at the city center, which is the KLCC area and the Bukit Bintang area. They offer an easy access to transport and amenities with really good prices for high-rise condos ranging from $50 to $100 per night. Now, for longer-term stay, expat-friendly neighborhoods like Mont Kiara and Sri Hartamas are ideal, where the rents are between $500 to $900 for 1-bedroom apartment.
In Bangkok, for short-term stays, areas like Sukhumvit near the BTS stations are perfect, with modern condos costing between $40 to $90 per night. Long-term expats tend to live in places like Tonglor or Ekamai, where rents for 1-bedroom units are between $500 to $1,000 per month.
If we talk about Saigon, District 1 is the go-to area for short-term stays, with service apartments costing around $40 to $80 per night. And for longer-term stay, District 2, which is the Thaudian area, is the top expat choice, where the rent starts from $600 to $1,200 for larger apartments or villas.
In Jakarta, the Central Business District or CBD are great for short-term stays, with service apartments costing between $40 to $70 per night. Long-term stays for expats, they often settle in areas such as Kemang or Mentang, where rents range between $400 to $900 per month. So for short-term stays, you would ideally like to stay in the Central Business District, or as North Americans say, downtown areas. But for longer term stay, you would like to go a little bit further away in expat locations, which would be much more ideal. One of the really nice tip that we would like to give you is that, generally speaking, you would have to go to Airbnb for short-term rentals, or even places like booking.com. But you can always go to Facebook expat groups and reach out to, landlords and rental agencies who specifically give short-term rentals to expats, because they get a little bit higher, but it'll still be cheaper than Airbnb. Airbnb.
They provide quite a bit of a competitive price.
Exactly. We did a much more comprehensive video around just finding the right locations and a little bit more tips around, how to get the best bang for your buck. So we will link it for you in the description as well. It really varies which city is best. It really depends on your personal circumstances. But for us, we would definitely have to say Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is the best when it comes to accommodation. We lived in Bihar Thomas and worked, and our daughter's school was in this area called Monkiar, which is basically, suburbs that are connected with each other. So we would probably say Kuala Lumpur is the one that wins in this category.
Now, let's be honest, in terms of cost of living, it is very important in terms of you choosing a city, but it completely depends on your personal preferences and what you give more value to. Like, for example, since we are traveling with our toddler, it is very important for us to send her to an international preschool. And as a result, most of these international preschools are located in an expat area. So even if you wanted to stay, for example, in the downtown area or a city center, it was not a good option for us because that would include a lot of traveling. So we went for expat locations. So you need to be very clear about what is your intention for that travel and what is that intention for you to being there for either short term or long term.
So if you're someone who doesn't have a kid or has kids and you're homeschooling, you will probably spend a lot less than what we did.
So let's talk about the cost of living. For Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, we spend around 4,400 Australian dollar per month on average. Our largest expense was on accommodation, which was about 27% of our monthly expenses, roughly around 1.2k Australian dollar.
In Saigon, Vietnam, we spent around 4,050 Australian dollars per month on average. Our largest expense was on accommodation as well, which was around 29% of our monthly expenses, which comes down to around 1.1k Australian dollars.
For Bangkok in Thailand, we spent quite a bit. It was 5,650 Australian dollars per month on average. Our largest expense was again on accommodation, which was about 25% of our monthly expense, which comes around 1,400 Australian dollars.
And lastly, in Jakarta, we spent around 4,240 Australian dollars per month on average. Our largest expense, believe it or not, was on food, which includes delivery and eat outs. And that was around 23% of our overall monthly expenses, which was around 960 Australian dollars. So in this particular category, as you can see from the numbers, cost of living for us, Saigon, Vietnam actually won. It was the most reasonable for us. But when you think about value for money, Malaysia is actually a little bit better because we travel a lot more in Malaysia, and we did a lot more in Malaysia compared to Saigon, where we, basically worked a lot.
Transport and traffic that Southeast Asia is notorious for. So let's tackle that now. If you're looking for Saigon, Vietnam, motorbikes dominate here. It's fast and cheap to get around on motorbikes, which cost about $1 to $3 for rides within the city, but the chaos is overwhelming. Public transport options are limited.
Traffic jams are infamous, but with the options like the BTS SkyTrain and MRT, subway systems makes life bearable, especially if you live near one of these stations. Fares for the BTS range between 50 cents to $1.50 depending on distance, making it a lot more reliable than taxis during rush hour.
If you look at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, the public transport like LRT, MRT is efficient and affordable. Fare ranges between 30 cents to $1 in US dollars, but the city still struggles with congestion. If you rely on Grab rides or taxis, costs are higher compared to public transport, but without a doubt, it's the most convenient.
Jakarta's traffic is some of the worst in the world, with, being very unpredictable with travel times. We are quite, sort of used to this, coming originally from Dhaka, Bangladesh. However, the new MRT system is improving things. Motorbike rides are pretty common, especially with Gojek and Grab, and they're quite affordable, costing around $1 to $3 per ride. So for us in this particular category, overall, we would say Bangkok actually wins, even with, the traffic being pretty insane, especially due to the options of ride-sharing apps such as Grab with their bike options, as well as their public transportation, which is pretty, convenient, fast, and quite well spread out across the city.
Yeah, I felt like, the Bangkok city, it's very well connected. And
Exactly.
Maybe that's the reason why. Whichever mode of transport you choose, whether it's the public or just the Grab and things, it just makes life a lot easier.
And they've also got a pretty massive ferry network as well, because
yes.
they've got like rivers all across the city. So, you will not lack options at all when it comes to Bangkok.
So clearly, Bangkok talent wins here. Food is the most exciting part about travel traveling in Southeast Asia because you are spoiled for variety.
So let's get into the food options for each of these cities.
Saigon in Vietnam is the king of street food. You will find everything from pho to banh mi, often for as little as $1.50 to $3 per meal. Now the variety is fantastic, but more upscale dining can still be found at around 15 to 30 US dollars.
Bangkok is truly a foodie paradise, offering everything from Thai street food, which is going to be around 1 to 3 or 4 US dollars depending on the meal, to fine dining and international cuisine. Bangkok also excels in upscale dining, which can go up to 50 US dollars or even 100 US dollars per meal.
If you look at Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, it has a diverse blend of Malay, Indian, and Chinese cuisine with a heavy emphasis on food courts and hawker stalls. You can eat for as little as 2 to 4 US dollars, but the city also has some top-notch fine dining, which you can have for 20 to 50 US dollars.
Now in Jakarta, Indonesian food is absolutely delicious and quite reasonable, so you can get around 1 to 3 US dollars for street food, but international options are a little limited and sometimes quite expensive. This is mainly due to the fact that they have to import a lot of these ingredients, which can cost anywhere between 20 to 50 US dollars to eat out. For us personally, for our palate, we felt like Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur offered the best variety, and the taste buds were sort of like matching up with us. So for us in this particular category, we'll definitely have to go with Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I mean, the food was just amazing, and we just cannot. I'm just salivating thinking about it.
Yes, I'm thinking of all the food. But in saying that, the food in Bangkok was
pretty good as well.
So that would come second.
Now, this is a pretty broad category when it comes to quality of life. Now, it really is subjective, but what we're really talking about over here is things like safety, comfort, healthcare,
weather,
and English proficiency. So let's get into it.
Kuala Lumpur is one of the most comfortable cities to live in. It's safe, clean, and modern. Healthcare is excellent with private hospitals comparable to Western standards. English proficiency is also high, which makes day-to-day life easier for expats. Weather-wise, it's hot and humid year-round, but the rain is fairly predictable and usually manageable.
When it comes to Bangkok, it's got one of the highest quality healthcare, and it's known for healthcare tourism, and it's actually quite safe. English is widely spoken in tourist areas, but not so much, the suburbs. Weather-wise, similar to Kuala Lumpur, it's hot and humid with a slightly cooler season between November and February.
Now, if we're talking about Saigon, Saigon is generally safe, but healthcare isn't as developed, and the private clinic you have are actually more expensive, sometimes more than the Western countries. English is spoken in expat districts, but outside those areas, expect communication to be a bit challenging, so Google Translate would help you there. In terms of weather, it's very similar to that of KL and Bangkok, but the rainy season can be quite hectic, especially with flooding in some areas.
Lastly, when it comes to Jakarta, your comfort levels would very much depend on the area that you're living in. Private healthcare is still improving, but it sort of lags still behind Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok. English proficiency is lower, especially outside the central areas, and weather-wise, it's hot and humid with rainfall, which might cause a bit of flooding in certain areas. So, in conclusion, when we look at overall quality of life, I think it's a toss-up between Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur.
Yes.
And we will probably keep Kuala Lumpur a little bit, ahead when it comes to this category, right?
Yeah. Now let's get into the entertainment part of the city because it's very important and you need to know what are the things that you can do in those cities. So let's dive in. If you're looking at Kuala Lumpur has a good mix of modern entertainment like museum, parks, shopping malls, and nightlife. For weekend getaways, the Cameron Highlands or the islands like Langkawi are within reach. Now, Kuala Lumpur is very family friendly.
Now, with Bangkok, it has got a vibrant nightlife. You've got lots of temples, shopping, nearby beach getaways. Also, the entire city is quite well connected with a couple of airports. Whether you want to go within Thailand or even outside the country, you are well connected. So whether you're into history, culture, or even parties, there's always something to do in Bangkok.
For Saigon, there are plenty of bars and cafes, along with cultural spots like the War Remnant Museum and Chu Chi Tunnels. It's more low-key compared to Bangkok.
Now, when it comes to Jakarta, their entertainment scene is a little bit more limited, but you still have immense amount of malls if you are into shopping. There are parks and a growing nightlife scene. One of the things I would definitely say is that people in Jakarta are very much into their music, especially when it comes to rock music. So there are a lot of areas where you've got buskers and things like that. So if you are into music, that's a pretty good place. However, most travelers use Jakarta as a launch point to sort of explore Bali and some of the other islands.
And I don't think we have to say this any louder. Clearly, Bangkok wins. It is the hub for entertainment. Whether you're a solo traveler, whether you're a couple, whether you're a family, expat, whatever you like to put it, they have it all covered.
Exactly. I mean, you will not run out of things to do.
So if you're a party animal, head down to Bangkok. Now, this is the bonus category. Since we are a family traveling, we want to give something for other families who would want to think about relocating to Southeast Asian cities like the four that we're talking about and get a little bit of comfort that there are options.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong way to go about this. Like a lot of families who travel that we have met across during our journey, they, sort of homeschool their kids. But for us, we wanted to send our daughter to international preschools because we are both working on creating a freedom-based business, and that is basically our entire goal. So we can't, be homeschooling as well as doing this. Like we can't do both of them together well. So that's why we actually went down this route. So let's talk a little bit about these options for kids when it comes to these 4 different cities.
If you look at Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, it has a wide range of international schools and preschools. It has the British, American, and also the Australian curriculum, with tuition fees ranging from $5,000 to $20,000 per year, depending on the school.
Now, Bangkok also offers excellent international schools, and the prices are quite similar to KL, ranging between $6,000 to $25,000 annually. So it is similar, but still a little bit more on the higher side. And without a doubt, as you know, in Bangkok, you've got a strong expat community, and the extracurricular activities that you've got there are plentiful.
Now, if you look at Saigon, there are fewer international schools, but they are still available. The fees over there ranges between $8,000 to $15,000 per year. Now, the expat community in Saigon is smaller, but it is growing, and we are seeing that more international schools are cropping up in all these locations.
Now, in Jakarta, the number of international schools are limited when you compare it to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok, and tuition fees range between $6,000 to $18,000 per year. But, we have to say the quality varies quite a lot. So for us in this particular category, we would have to say that Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok are sort of like a tie. But, Saigon and Jakarta are slowly coming up with, expats moving there more. And as it's basically demand and supply, right? So the more expats and more people actually going to these cities, you will see a lot more schools cropping up for them.
Yes, and one thing that I would like to point about in particularly in Bangkok, the school that our daughter went to, we've done a video. I'll put a link here that you can go and have a look. One of the it was like a bonus for us. They had school bus service. And as you know, Bangkok can be extremely difficult in terms of traveling. So that was something that was like a bonus for us, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And like Southeast Asia is a place where if you have a problem, there is a solution for everything, and you ask for anything, you'll get it.
Exactly. So I hope this was helpful for parents. So there you have it, an overall comparison of 4 of the most vibrant cities in Southeast Asia. We hope this video was valuable for you. If you actually ask us, it is a very difficult thing to compare and say which city is actually best. It's really personalized. What we will say though is that Saigon is a very amazing city. It is quite affordable, and it's slowly picking up, and I do not think it will stay as affordable as it is today. Bangkok, on the other hand, you have that chaos of the city, the hustle and bustle, but you get a lot of things to do, and anything you want is within your fingertips. Malaysia is amazing with its food and very family friendly, culture. Jakarta is sort of like, is an up and coming city. So if you ask us as a family of 3, what we would ideally want is to live in Kuala Lumpur and go and have fun in Bangkok, if you know what I mean.
So one of the reasons why we are doing this whole gap here and we have chosen Southeast Asia is because of the fact that currency hacking. Obviously, we've saved up money to do this adult gap year, and we earned in Australian dollars. And for us to get the value of Australian dollar, it is very vital to be around Southeast Asia, because not only it is affordable, it almost matches the lifestyles that we had in Australia, and we wouldn't want to compromise that either.
Yeah, in some cases actually the quality of life is better, especially when it comes to the services that you get.
For example, we had a nanny in Indonesia. We had
you got cleaners coming in to the house and groceries delivered within a few hours as opposed to, the next day, and all these sort of stuff. So
And mind you, these are considered luxury in Australia. So when we lived in Sydney, these are some things that you might think about doing once a month or once every 2 months. So I don't know how we can go back to Australia and, enjoy life after this one whole year in Southeast Asia. I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
So we would recommend, if you have the chance, if you have the opportunity, to try it out. And if this is something that you want, you can also create a plan around it. So it's not difficult. If we can do it, so can anyone else.
Yeah. And in that in mind, we will link a video about why we left Australia after 15 years living there. So we'll link it for you over here. Hope this video was helpful, and please do subscribe to our channel and follow our journey and support us so that we can continue to make more videos like this. See you in the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.